rarely seen, Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, yesterday applied for arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as the country's Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant. Khan said he was also seeking the arrest and prosecution of Hamas leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, the group's political leader, Ismail Haniyeh, and the Hamas military chief, Mohammed Deif. The ICC prosecutor said his office had applied to the World Court's pre-trial chamber for arrest warrants for the military and political leaders on both sides for crimes committed during Hamas' October 7 attack on Israel and the ensuing war in Gaza. While Hamas leaders were wanted for crimes of murder, hostage-taking, rape, sexual assault and torture, Netanyahu and Gallant were accused of extermination, causing starvation as a method of war, the denial of humanitarian relief supplies, and deliberately targeting civilians. Right, Rufai, we had, there's been mold. Would it not be? It's to make it clear, the arrest warrant hasn't yet been issued. He's seeking that to happen.
I think three other judges will meet for that to be able to go through, yes. And let's see how that pans out. But I think it's also for better context. Let's listen to this. He was talking about starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, which we have seen happen in Gaza. That's in Article 8, Sub 2, Sub B, willfully causing great suffering and serious injury and body and health, contrary to Article 8, Sub 2, A, 3, cruel treatment and a war crime, contrary to Article 8, Sub 2, Sub C, Sub 1, willfully killing, contrary to Article 8, Sub 2, Sub A, intentionally directing attack against civilian population, contrary, as war crime, contrary to Articles 8, Sub 2, Sub B, Sub A, and 8, 2, EA. Extermination or murder, contrary to Article 7A, including the context of death by starvation, persecution as a crime against humanity, Article 7A, and all of that. I think we should give very big kudos to Karim Khan for this. But in his hypocritical stance, America has also come out to condemn. In fact, most of the top Republicans have come out to condemn and say, oh, this is a big faux pas. That, oh, the ICC is this, is that, and all of that. But we need to be able to bring sanity to the world. And I'm not surprised Americans are not signatory to the ICC themselves. The Israelis too have come out to condemn. Top Republican, senators too have come out to condemn. But they didn't condemn the ICC during the time of Charles Taylor. They didn't condemn the ICC during the time of Slobodan Milosevic. I ask again, what's the difference between what Netanyahu is doing and what the likes of Slobodan Milosevic and Charles Taylor did? What's the difference? And these are the questions we should ask. It is the hypocrisy that we cannot stand. The ideal thing to have been done was to go for a ceasefire, which Netanyahu has actually rejected because he wants to decimate Gaza, not really Hamas, because you cannot say that you want to come into the studio now and attack people without me standing up for you. So in the process of decimating Hamas, you're decimating the population. Look at what they've been doing in Rafah and some other parts, and some other crossing into Israel. Look at how they've decimated the city. This America in one fell swoop will come out to say, oh, we're not going to supply any more weapons because you shouldn't have these 2,000-pound bombs or 2,000 kg bombs. In another fell swoop, they come out to say, okay, we're going to give you another 1 billion arms deal. Then they've shelled over 21 billion to be able to support this war. America has funded the killing and the loss of life in Gaza. We need to call them to order. And this morning, I would also like to give very due commendation to Amal Clooney for also pushing this case. That's George Clooney's wife. Yeah. Famous international human rights lawyer. Yeah. We cannot allow this continue. We also give kudos to South Africa for putting their foot on the ground. But all of a sudden, America comes out. The shocking thing Joe Biden says is that, oh, this is not genocide. So I ask you, President Joe Biden, in your own good conscience, what is genocide? If over 35,000 people in Gaza have been killed and slaughtered, and you don't call it genocide, so what is genocide? At this rate, I'm sure you will say what happened in Auschwitz was not genocide because you are going to support Israel. What is genocide? I asked you, President Joe Biden, this morning. Let us call a spade a spade. Nobody's taking side. I totally condemn what Hamas did on the 7th of October. Yes, Israel has a right to self-defense, but not at this level. Is the action reciprocal? Over 35,000 people completely decimated and put Gaza in ruins. And what are we saying? Let's call for a ceasefire. Let's release the hostage. Let's go back to the table. And in the grand scheme of things, let's plan for a two-state solution, which the Israelis are saying they're not ready to take on the table now. Which way is the world going to go? Israel keeps breaking international rules order, and nobody can call them to order.
All right, so the International Criminal Court is the world's first permanent international war crimes court, and it was established through the Roman Statute. And it's important to note that Israel is not a part of it. However, if found guilty, or if, not guilty, if the arrest warrant is issued, then it would mean that countries, about 124 of them who are signed on, will have the right to arrest Netanyahu and the Gaza leaders if they come to their country. That was in the same case as what happened with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, whether he was going to attend the BRICS meeting in South Africa or not, if they were going to institute the arrest against him based on the orders of the ICC. So this is playing out here. And there have been a number of reactions to this across the world. Rufai, you stated the United States position. No surprises there. The US has always been a strong ally of Israel, only once or twice coming out to condemn the killings of civilians in Israel. And even then, it's been said to be just a slap on the wrist. Only recently, because of a number of issues, chief amongst them might also be the fact that elections are happening later on this year, and a number of Americans, particularly younger ones, have come out to condemn the actions of Israel against Gaza, saying that the retaliation following the attacks on the 7th of October by Israel has been overboard. It has been more in terms of it's not commensurate to what happened, and it's breaking on many levels the law of international engagement and war and peace. Beyond that, other Western allies, such as the United Kingdom, have come out. A number of people have tried to stay on the fence. If you look at the responses from the United Kingdom, from France, from Belgium, and other world leaders, they've tried to sit on the fence, whilst with the US, the only one being outright in condemning this move by the ICC chief prosecutor, Khan, to institute the opportunity to be able to arrest an arrest warrant against Israel and Netanyahu in this case, and leaders in Gaza. But the UK has said that they've always been in support of upholding laws and ensuring that humanitarian, when it comes to war, human rights are still being adhered to, and that food or starvation is not used as a weapon of war. We analyze that whilst we're speaking about the Israeli situation here on this show as well. But France has said it has long warned of the consequences of violating international humanitarian law, particularly in regards to the unacceptable number of civilians killed in Gaza. With regards to that, since October 7, over 34,000 civilians have been killed, with over 70,000 injured in Gaza. And so a number of people have been calling calling for a ceasefire. There've been a number of mediators trying to reach some form of agreement between both sides to get, to achieve a ceasefire, but that hasn't worked. Remember, only recently, even though Palestine had agreed on some level, Israel has said it was not in any way with regards to what they demanded in terms of a truce or a ceasefire. Now, moving on to the United States, they've outwardly called it outrageous and they're not supporting it. They condemned it largely and said that the ICC, and just condemned the ICC, like you said, Rufai, when it suits them, it's not working, and when it doesn't suit them, or when it suits them, it's not working, and when it doesn't suit them, they say, oh, it's working quite fine. And then the United Kingdom has also talked about the fact that this might actually achieve the opposite, in terms of it might then make it longer to get to that point of ceasefire if this case continues. So there's a lot of pressure, but we'll see how much pressure in terms of the Western nations, who are quite strong when it comes to United Nations, would have, how much influence they would have in terms of this case going forward. Again, just to clarify that this is not yet an institution of an arrest warrant. It is a beginning of the process. If this goes through, like I mentioned, Netanyahu and all the other leaders, it's not just Netanyahu in terms of Israel, he's also his defense minister and some leaders in Hamas, will then be open to be arrested if they step on or step in countries or territories that have signed on to this agreement. Move on to our next story this morning. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday extended his condolences to the government and people of the Islamic Republic of Iran over the passing of President Ibrahim Raisi. Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian and other officials in a helicopter crash. Raisi and the country's foreign minister were found dead in the early hours of yesterday after their helicopter crashed on Sunday, leaving the Islamic Republic without two key leaders. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei quickly named Vice President Mohammad Mokber to assume interim duties and announced 5 days of mourning thereafter. State media confirmed they were killed after the helicopter they were traveling in came down. Raisi, 63, had been tipped as a potential successor to the Supreme Leader. Iranian news outlet Tasnim, which is affiliated to the country's Islamic Revolution Guards Corps, reported that Raisi's funeral will be held on Tuesday, that's today, in Tabriz. Right, updates there. We took the story extensively yesterday, paying tribute and offering condolences to the people of Iran yesterday, Rufai. But now the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has also, amongst other leaders, world leaders, shared his own condolences to the Supreme Leader and the people of Iran.
I mean, once again, our condolences. President Tinubu has shared his own condolences to the Supreme Leader. Nigeria and Iran has quite, some ties back and forth. And it has to be said, it's a time of mourning for the Iranian people and the Iranian government. As we speak, many things have been said as regards the helicopter crashing. Some have even said, oh, this is part of the sanctions for Americans after the 79 revolution. It was hard for them to get parts, but there was also a story making the rounds about some people say that they had warned the Iranians to get Russian helicopters for their leaders, because it was difficult to get parts. And it was over a 40-year-old helicopter. It was a Bell 212 helicopter that was flying around that place. So there have been many, talks back and forth. He was going out there to commission the Galas, hydroelectric dam, out there in the East Azerbaijan border, but it happened in the Iranian airspace in the mountainous region. They talked about fog and all of that. But the dynamics really is this. Iran is mostly split between the moderates and the reformists and the hardliners. After the Iranian Revolution, over the years, there have been some people that are saying Iran must reform. Sometimes they get into power, sometimes it's always good, and they have a relationship that has a lot of fraction with the Supreme Leader. That's Ali Khamenei, or Khamenei like it used to be before Ali Khamenei came in. So there's been a lot of talk as regards that. The question is, will the hardliners now allow a case where Mobek, which is the head SETAD, a fund management, government-owned fund management in Iran, will they allow him continue, or how quickly can the hardliners get another strong candidate? Because we all remember the political back and forth that happened between Rouhani and Raisi before Raisi could finally defeat Rouhani. Rouhani was more moderate, and all of that. And also, when you look at the protest that has happened recently in Iran and all of that, the crackdown by the government and, the Supreme Leader and all of that, there's been this push. In fact, in some areas, some Iranian dissidents all around the world, there was celebration when Raisi passed, and they talked about him being the chief prosecutor and the man that helped, ensure that there were legal laws against people that acted against, the Islamic State and all of that. But it's going to be a big contest, and that's why the next 50 days will tip the balance as regards the Iranian politics. The reformists, too, are charging real strong. There's been some stories out of the wire, I think it was Channel 4 that was talking about the fact that Raisi was so influential that there was a contention between him, who was going to be the Supreme Leader in the future, contention between Raisi and the son of, what's his name now, the Grand Ayatollah. But some people out of Iran, some political watchers have discounted that and said, oh, there was no contention of some sort, but Raisi was really influential. So let's see, according to Section 131 of the Iranian Constitution, how the couple of days will pan out, the 50-day mark, who they will put in there and all of that, and the implications that will have on the, your nuclear program, nuclear proliferation program, partnership and collaborations with the West, the war going on in Gaza, and some other of their affiliates, and the role of the Revolutionary Guards out of Iran. So it's going to be a lot of dynamics, but Khamenei has said we're going to stabilize the ship and we're going to ensure things are stabilized.
All right, well, very quickly, the president has mourned, and through a statement released by his chief spokesperson, Ajuri Ngelale, he talked about how deep in grief he is, and how Raisi, paying tribute to Raisi, to President Raisi, that he was passionate about the development of Iran, and just said he was saddened by the unfortunate news, and also condoled with the supreme leader of Iran. Now, in terms of ceremonies following the death being announced of President Raisi, aside from the announcement of his vice president as the new president by the supreme leader, there's been 5 days of mourning announced in Iran. And according to reports from today, prayers will be offered at the site where the helicopter crashed, following which they will then move on to offer prayers by the theocratic elite in Iran. And then tomorrow will be where there'll be a public holiday, so offices will be shut down, and then the supreme leader will lead in prayers for the repose, and then he would be finally laid to rest. Again, very unfortunate news. Yesterday we talked about how world leaders had paid tribute or just condoled with the people of Iran on the loss of the loss of their president. It's also important to mention that, of course, as with when things like this happen, there are many speculations around what could have caused that crash. In the immediate, whilst waiting, pending a full investigation into the crash, which hopefully we'll hear the reports in the near future, what has been said to be the cause of the crash in the immediate is very bad weather. In fact, according to aviation analysts and people who have already started to probe the cause of the crash, it's been said that no signal or mayday was recorded, and so might speak to how, to how immediate it happened, and the fact that the pilots might have been trying to secure a landing or to ensure that the plane could land in one way. But again, these are all speculations. At the end of the day, it will come out hopefully in a report as to what really happened with the helicopter. Some people have talked about also the sanctions and the war going on between Israel and Hamas, and how in a very remote way might have an impact because the helicopter hadn't been able to have its spare parts delivered as a result of border closures and the conflicts happening in the Middle East. But again, really sad one there. But as with life, it's moved on. Another president has been announced, and what the Iranian leaders, especially the supreme leader, will be trying to do will be to ensure that things don't, there's not a lot of upset following this death, and that there's a sense of showing that he's in control despite the loss of these two principal officers alongside other top aides in Iran.